We are already at our last panel of the day. So if you remember this morning, we opened with a panel about the field of data for social impact. And we brought this perspective of inclusive AI, layering it into that existing field of stakeholders and use cases and examples and policy. Now, we are going to look towards the future. So with this panel, we're going to think about that field of impact data science, but also think further afield and think about how these pieces all fit together, bringing us into UNGA 2025. So let's talk about the future with this panel. I'd like to welcome our moderator, Dr. Cormekki Whitley from Data.org, Davis Adieno from Global Partnership for Sustainable Development Data. Welcome back, Dr. Caitlin Augustin from DataKind. We also have Stefan Dugging from Cyber Peace Institute. And coming from the furthest away from Singapore, we have Dr. Emir Hrnjić. Okay. Emir Hrnjić. I'm going to learn Polish after this. Turkish. Dr. Emir from National University of Singapore. I'll let you take it away.
Thank you so much. What a privilege to be the last panel of the day, right? So thank y'all for hanging in there and really engaging in this topic about the future. So again, I applaud you for hanging in here today. I'm Cormekki Whitley. I'm the Chief Finance and Administration Officer at Data.org. I also have the privilege to lead our financial inclusion work that will be started in Singapore, hence my colleague all the way from Singapore today. Today, I have been really struck by all the conversations that have been had. And we have pulled together a great panel to synthesize some of those learnings and also what is the future of that. So I asked the panel to please put your future hats on. We were talking about 5 years today. What is that the future? But I'm gonna test what is idealistic optimism. So as the panel introduces themselves, I'll start with Davis. Davis, can you tell a little about yourself and what your organization does?
Yeah, thank you so much for the opportunity. And Davis Adieno, Senior Director of Programs at the Global Partnership for Sustainable Development Data. There will be a trivia for those who remember the name at the end of this panel. We are a global network that brings together multi-stakeholder partnerships, and we broker partnerships between private sector, UN agencies, and other partners to deliver tools, platforms, capacity, and other opportunities, especially at the national level. So translating a lot of this global level, nomenclature into practical, actionable programs at the country level and sharing the learning back. Which is what I'm here to do today. Thank you.
Well, you all heard from me just a couple minutes ago, but Caitlin Augustin, Vice President of Product and Program at DataKind. We build tools to help social impact organizations better achieve their theories of change. We've partnered with many of you in the room, and if we haven't partnered yet, please reach out to me or my colleague Quentin, who's over in the corner. So.
Stéphane Duguin, I'm the CEO of the Cyber Peace Institute, and we are going to partner with DataKind, so thank you for the call. We are a non-profit based in Geneva. We are providing cybersecurity for free for other non-profits, so via a system where we leverage data at best, apply AI, and deploy free workforce for these non-profits. So it's more than 350 of them receiving support for more than 1,000 volunteers, and it's scaling. So another call, if you want to partner, you'll find me. Thank you.
Good afternoon, everybody. My name is Emir Hrnjić, and that was absolutely fantastic pronunciation. I'm really thankful for that. Thanks to Mastercard Center for Inclusive Growth. Thanks to all of you who are here. Thanks to Cormekki and everyone who invited me. If I fall asleep, it's 3 o'clock after midnight in Singapore, so please don't mind. What I do is I have two hats. I'm in NUS Business School. I'm academic director of executive MBA that we do jointly with UCLA. And I'm also head of fintech training in Asian Institute of Digital Finance. And today I'm wearing that hat as a head of fintech training. And just to give you a little bit of a background, is just a few short months ago, we met in Singapore and talked about collaboration between Mastercard, Data.org, and Asian Institute of Digital Finance. And I'm very, very happy to say that in a couple of weeks, in November, we are going to sign memorandum of understanding. We are already doing some stuff that hopefully I'm going to have time to talk about. And one more time, thanks for having me here.
Thank you. Thank you for those introductions. Caitlin, I'll start with you since you just finished speaking. You talked about all the products that you're developing and working on. One of the first themes of today was how do we make AI for everyone? Can you talk a little bit about how your organization is doing that in the products and your approach to AI for everyone?
Sure, absolutely. And I'll say, when we think about AI for everyone, data for everything, that starts with a solution. The way that DataKind makes this accessible is we start with the problem. What is it that you want to see changed? You want easy access to data. You want a recommendation of the next right action to take. So we start with the problem that needs to be solved, and then we co-create the solution. And that is key to making AI, to making any solution available to all, is you have to build it in the context that it'll be used. We work in low resource environments where doing a complex model wouldn't make sense to run because you have such low bandwidth. You have to think of other ways to build it. You can't build a tool that you need a desktop to use if your clients are all mobile phone users. So I would say to build for all, you have to build to solve the problem. So you have to invest in solving the problem, and you have to build the solution to match the context it'll be used in.
Thank you for that. So when you're building, you do need people to build, right? Several of the panels today talked about capacity building, and we need people with the social impact lens to really think about how we are able to do that equitably. I want to turn to you, Emir, to talk about your work in fintech training and also a little bit more about your partnership with us in data.org.
Thank you so much. Clearly in NUS Business School we do a lot of training, and that is the institution that's been around for a long time. It's one of the top, it's probably number one in Asia. But Asian Institute of Digital Finance is much younger. It's about 4 years. We started during the pandemics, and in this short time we developed a PhD in digital financial technology, a master in science. We developed now executive masters in AI and digital transformation. But more importantly, we do trainings on a regular basis that are focused on a current trends that are industry driven. We look at the demand, what's going on, and what is it that industry wants us to do. We are co-founded by a Monetary Authority of Singapore. And I'm very proud talking about Singapore because Monetary Authority of Singapore is always looking forward, right? And looking forward is like in 3 to 5 years or in 6 to 8 years, what is it that we are going to need in terms of capacity and talent development? So we collaborate with different organizations within Singapore, like Monetary Authority, National Research Foundations, and so on and so forth. And now I'm very proud that we are doing together with data.org. We already started creating a course that is going to be based on ethical AI, on data privacy. We're going to provide the content, we're going to get the funding, and most importantly, it's going to be open to everybody. And talking about that, last year for Singapore FinTech Festival, we have developed also another course, which is a Gen AI in finance. So just very few short months after Gen AI even came to life, we were able to develop the course. It's available online, and there are a lot of stuff that we are doing.
Thank you for that. Stefan, I'm going to turn to you. Many of the panelists talked today about culture and how that is important to the work we do. Data.org calls that localism. People closest to the problem need to be part of the solution. How in your work are you embedding a localism lens?
Well, thanks for the question. It came quite clear because we have a global program to deliver this free cybersecurity and guiding to the best employment of AI into the daily activities of non-profit and social impact organizations that are across the board. Imagine sanitation of water, providing healthcare, curbing gender-based violence, fighting climate change, and the like. each of these organizations, they have their own problematic, their own culture, their own funding scheme. So if you would be devil's advocate and go to them and say, you know what, your AI issue or your cybersecurity issue has been solved, just go on YouTube, look on tutorials, download some tools, and normally you should be off. It doesn't work like this. It doesn't work because you need to understand the daily context in which they operate, how their daily reality impact, in fact, the whole data stack that they have, the type of technology that they use. In some part of the world, some technology is just illegal to be used, and you need also to factor that in. And also the end product that they want to service. Even if it's about social impact, it's a product, and it needs to be adapted to the audience. So it means really translating what has been sometime crafted on a global level in a localized way, not going into like a transactional approach. It's not like you provide something for someone to use, is that you co-create that something with the someone. So our program, for example, with free workforce that we deploy on cybersecurity for these NGOs, we have to make sure that our volunteers understand the reality of this nonprofit. They cannot support a nonprofit in Kenya the same way as support a nonprofit across the street in Geneva. That doesn't work like this. So localization was bottom up. It was needed for us to be sure that we would going to have an impact.
Thank you. And mentioning Kenya brings me to my great partner here, Davis. Davis, you're doing a lot of work around partnerships, and especially with the government of Kenya. Can you talk a little bit about that work, how you've been working with the government to really think about social impact in AI?
Yeah, thanks for the opportunity. And just to say, this been really intense and very productive conversations since this morning. And, I'd prepared lots of talking points, which I think are now out of the window. But I mean, it's the spirit of, this kind of, event and what Mastercard Center for Inclusive Growth have put together here, that for me in the future will continue to push the frontier on AI. The fact that we have so many different partners in the room, many policy makers at the global level and at the national level, and partners working on real stuff, demonstrating real use cases and sharing a lot of learning. It's really important. So we, as the global partnership, we do work with a lot of governments across the world, in Africa, Latin America, and the Caribbean, but specifically in Kenya, together with the Ministry of ICT and the Kenya National Bureau of Statistics and other partners, we are developing our first national AI strategy. And this came out of some work we did about 2 years ago in developing guidelines for AI practitioners, which was interesting for us as the partnership because our understanding was that there's a very small ecosystem of AI partners working on different aspects. But what that surfaced was a really large community of AI practitioners, in sectors you wouldn't have imagined. We have lawyers, deploying AI solutions. You have the Business Registration Service, which is an agency of government deploying its first, chatbot. We didn't know a lot of that. And through that work, we did surface a lot of interest. And the community was saying, let's not have regulations, let's not have a legal regime first, let's develop a strategy which is going to guide us towards the development of regulations and, of course, an opportunity for legislative framework. The reason being, we have to be careful because this is a fast evolving area and we don't want to stifle innovation, but at the same time provide guardrails that allow everybody to use the superhighway back and forth to get to where they want to be. And so through this work, we are learning that there's a lot of interest from government, and we are using the strategy as a process to strengthen the ecosystem rather than just a document in itself. So we've had consultations, with principal secretaries, with ministers. We've put out a public call for feedback, and thousands of people are sending in information. So there's a national interest, raising awareness about AI, dispelling fear about the opportunities around AI, especially with government. We want to keep them very close. We want them to understand what the opportunities are. so that we don't have one politician standing on a platform and saying, let's shut this thing down. We want a critical mass of politicians. And I think there's a big opportunity really to bring them to these types of platforms so that they can understand that this is a much bigger world and that the opportunities are really endless. And so ecosystem building, and then looking at solutions. So which are the sectors that actually are going to suffer as a result of the deployment of AI? They're going to be winners and losers. Nobody's really having that conversation. So who are the losers and what should we do about them? And so we are having a real conversation about that. And of course, opportunities about small and medium-sized enterprises, application of AI tools in health, education, inclusion, and many other sectors. And so it's building the bridge between government and creating the opportunities for government really to invest in the foundational aspects, because governments are going to be the biggest investors in this sector. But if they are not aware about the opportunities, how do they do that? So we need to strengthen infrastructure, connectivity, build the skills, and of course, when you talk about connectivity, it's both, just basic things as connection to the internet, access to electricity, and thinking about the potential harms. Now, I wanted to also mention a point here. We talk about AI for health outcomes, development outcomes, but I've heard very little about the potential harmful impact of AI on health. And I'm just wondering, maybe in the future, if we're going to have, a doomsday kind of scenario with AI, and need to have a real conversation about that, and what it actually means in terms of partnerships to start mitigating the potential impact of something like that happening. So there you are.
Davis, remind me not to go to you last if you're going to talk about doomsday scenarios at the end of the panel, okay? Well, given that our time is cutting short, I would like just to not leave the conversations without talking about partnerships. We all are here because we are different parts of that partnership. But we don't just get up in the morning and say, hey, let's be partners, right? It takes a lot. We only have a few minutes, so please keep your answers crisp as possible, Davis. Can you talk a little bit about building partnerships outside of your normal ecosystem? Who have been like your surprise partners, and how have they impacted your organization?
I think there's a genuine fear around private sector, especially big tech engagement in national level processes, and it's one of the myths that we are trying to dispel. The fact that if you want to create jobs at the national level, you have to create an opportunity for both local actors and strengthen, the capacity of local innovators to really step up and monetize. People are looking for jobs, people are looking for money, and those are the results ultimately that we want to see an impact in lives. And ordinary citizens want to access the benefits of AI rather than AI itself. Nobody really cares. We in Kenya don't really know how M-Pesa works in the background, but I use it all the time, including when I'm in the US. Like, it doesn't really matter. And so how do we translate the benefits of AI to the public domain and create opportunities for partnerships? I think we are building capacity, and together with data.org, we are doing an amazing job in strengthening capacity in data science skills and laying the ground for leveraging AI. But we still see, like I said, the legal fraternity, research and academic institutions, and the surprise here is the politicians who are now talking about AI. And so we need to bring them to the room. They're asking for more information. They're asking us to go to parliament. They're summoning us to different forums to go and share what the strategy is all about. And I think, there's an opportunity, a real opportunity, to create alliances that then lay the groundwork for public-private partnerships, but be realistic about what the opportunity really is and the incentives, so that we don't end up with the torpedoes, especially from politicians. Thanks.
Caitlin, I want to bring you into the conversation as well as partnerships. You talked about how different people can access, but you also made it for everyone to use. Can you talk a little bit more about how you thought about partnerships and the tools that you've built?
Yes, absolutely. And I'll say DataKind's concept of partnerships has evolved as our organization has evolved. We used to exclusively work in a one-to-one way. And in order to receive our services, you needed to have a certain amount of data. You needed to have a certain amount of technical sophistication. with an evolution to building products, we've been able to unlock different partnerships. And I'll just mention two things. So the first is partnerships with networks. So the financial inclusion products I showed earlier today, those inclusive growth ones, we were able to work with the Strive USA network of CDFIs and organizations to really understand and build something impactful for a sector. So going to those network organizations, network relationships, we've done something similar with NetHope in the humanitarian space. So that has been a surprising place to really get that density and depth of knowledge. The second is going to organizations who are like strong influencers and strong sort of signposters for the broader field, but they might not be technically mature themselves, but they can really help convey the need of a community. And so one of those I'll mention, a group called Bright Community Trust has been a longtime partner of DataKind. They're about a 5-person organization in the state of Florida, but they are so locked in on the housing infrastructure, the housing community. They have connections all across the state and all across the nation. And so working with them to deliver a product that is as easy for them to use as their Gmail account or opening a Word document means that we have unlocked access to so many more individuals.
Stefan, what about you for partnerships?
No, I like what Kathleen was just saying in terms that the way you think about partnership is evolving over time, and it also depends on your ambition and your vision. So today the vision that we have, for example, in the protecting NGO space is to bring 1 million NGO at cybersecurity maturity by 2035. So when you have this kind of vision, it calls to specific partnership. Two examples. One is with corporation, the private sector. So our program is built on corporate-based volunteering, where we get the talent of cybersecurity and AI where they are, and we bring this talent in close to real time to the NGOs when it's needed, so that we ensure this matchmaking in between the NGOs and the talent. So it requires a lot of partnership with that organization and to adapt to what this organization gets as call it, for lack of a better name, return of investment in providing their workforce. That's one example. The second, with the philanthropies, donors, when you de-cyberize the conversation, because at the end of the day, cybersecurity is not to protect computers or networks. It's to make sure that you have access to water, access to food, that you can support humanitarian action, development. So it's also discussing with these funders where today they do not specifically target cybersecurity or empowerment of their grantees in using AI, to make understand that is a core building block in order to achieve impact. So other type of partnerships.
Thank you for that. Emir, I want to wrap the conversation up with you around partnerships. I know you do a lot with mentorship and how do you build students' capacity, but that is also a partnership that we have to make sure that we maintain. Can you speak to the partnerships and the work that you do?
Thank you. Do I only have 3 minutes or?
You have 1 minute.
Oh, okay, so sorry. I could speak till Monday, but traditionally, let's think about National University of Singapore in traditional way in last maybe 20 or 10 years, and new NUS that is emerging in last few years. So traditionally, we were going as a top university in Asia. We were looking for partnerships with Oxfords and ETHs and Yales and Berkeleys and UCLAs of the world. But now National University of Singapore is more and more socially conscious, and we are focused on ESG because that's now kind of becoming part of our DNA. And just the one that we are doing with data.org, and we were talking about it last time we met, we were talking about it this morning, is like we are committed to training 1 million purpose-driven data practitioners across the globe by 2032. And NUS and AIDF in particular, we want to be part of that. We want to contribute to that, right? Because sometimes we think of Singapore, which is a kind of a place which is well-functioning with great infrastructure, 98% financial inclusion and strong banking system and so on and so forth. But Singapore is also surrounded by, Indonesia and Philippines and countries that have maybe 50% financial inclusion. So what we want to train these data professionals We want them to come from different communities. We want them to represent those communities. We want them to go back to those communities. And even if they don't go back to those communities, if they go to Googles and Facebooks of the world, still they are going to be role models. They are going to be coming back to their communities. They are going to be inspiring and motivating other people. So we are really looking forward to these new initiatives that we are doing together.
So now we do have 1 minute, and I would lightning round. I'm gonna start with you, David, since you may go with a doomsday scenario. You're idealistic optimist, right?
Yeah, no, I think we need to bring the back end. I think there are people sitting in light rooms and dark rooms. Now, when you have a conversation with those folks, it's totally different from what we are having here.
Right.
So we need to bring them into the room so that we can have a realistic, chat about what this actually means and the, potential impact. I'm looking for partners who can support us to develop literacy programs for kids. That is the future. I haven't heard a lot about primary and high school curriculum and how we integrate this stuff looking into the future. If this is going to be what drives sustainable development, then we have to do that.
Thank you. Caitlin.
I think the future is access. Earlier panelist said something about, we can't upload and download food. So we need to have all of those concerns met before we can truly enable access to AI. So when I think of the future, I think that we have made it to a point where everyone who wants to use technology can use technology appropriate to their conditions.
Thank you.
Yeah, quite optimistic, in fact, because the technology is there, the talent is there, the ambition and the will is there. Now the question is, how good are we going to be at implementation? But at least it feels possible. It seems possible. We launched this Monday a global plan in order to provide cybersecurity to non-profits. It feels possible. The blocks are there. Are we going to succeed? We'll see.
Emir, you have the last word.
Oh, thank you. I'm gonna be short. Hopefully, we're gonna finish before 6 p.m. I'm gonna quote someone before me today. I believe it was Uy who said, "Talent is abundant, but opportunities are scarce." And what we see here is opportunity for talent development. As much as in Singapore, but also in other countries, as I was saying earlier, mostly in ASEAN, which is the Association of Southeast Asian Nations, but also across the world. So we are trying very, very hard to contribute to the community, to upskill and reskill people who are maybe feeling that they are no longer part of this world, because a lot of people today were talking about inequity, and AI can bring the growth maybe on average, but also that growth is not equally distributed. So how can we make that gap narrower, or at least not larger? So in NUS, we work together with many government agencies. I already mentioned MAS, NRF, and so on and so forth. But we also work with Skills Future Singapore, with Institute Banking on Finance. All these agencies are focused on the fact that some people are being left out of this AI revolution. And we want to make sure to tell them that you're never too old, you are always capable of catching up. So a lot of stuff that we do is focused on these kind of issues, and we are hoping to do that in future again.
Thank y'all. Thank y'all for such a good, informative panel. And just the diversity of thought and opinion and approach really goes to show that it does take all of us as partners and with different solutions. So it's not a one bullet, many bullets to make it happen. So actionable impact. And again, thank you for hanging in there to 3:13 today. So I appreciate it.